I'd like you to picture this. It's a gray, overcast Wednesday morning in January. You drag yourself out of bed, shuffle to the kitchen, pour your coffee, and stare out the window at a sky the color of wet concrete. You feel sluggish. You feel unmotivated. You feel like the world is just a little bit heavier than it was last week. Now picture a different morning. It's a bright Wednesday in late spring. The moment you open your curtains, golden light floods the room. You feel a little spark of something. Energy, optimism, the sense that today might actually be a good day. You haven't even had your coffee yet. What's different about those two mornings? The weather? Sure. Your attitude? Maybe. But here's what most people don't realize. Something changed inside your brain. Something measurable. Something biological. Something that science is now just beginning to understand in a remarkable, detailed way. That something is the extraordinary relationship between sunlight and your brain. Yep, light, traveling at 186,000 miles per second from a distance roughly 93 million miles away, is affecting you as you stand there in your PJs. Today, we're going to delve into something that is completely free, available to almost everyone, and yet is profoundly underestimated in its power to transform how we think, how we feel, and how we learn. We're talking, of course, about sunlight. We're going to explore the specific, fascinating, and sometimes surprising ways that sunlight interacts with your brain chemistry, your internal clock, and your long-term cognitive health. We're going to talk about what happens inside your brain when light enters your eyes in the morning, why your sleep quality tonight is directly connected to whether you stepped outside this morning, and how the sun may actually be one of your most powerful allies against the kinds of brain diseases that so many people face as they age. By the end of this episode, I hope you'll never look at a sunny day quite the same way again. I'd like to start with the word that you've probably heard before, but maybe not fully understood. The word is serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter, which is just a fancy word for a chemical messenger in your brain. It's often called the feel-good hormone, and it acts as both a neurotransmitter in the brain and a hormone in the body. Serotonin plays a central role in regulating your mood, your emotional stability, your sense of focus, and your ability to feel calm and content. When serotonin levels are healthy and balanced, you tend to feel more positive. You're more patient, more resilient. When they drop, you may feel irritable, anxious, foggy, or low. Now, here's where sunlight enters the picture in a truly remarkable way. When light, and I'm saying specifically natural sunlight, enters your eyes, it doesn't just allow you to see the world around you. It activates a very specific set of cells in your retinas. These cells send a direct signal along a pathway from your eye to a region of your brain called the dorsal raphe nucleus, which is one of the brain's primary serotonin producing centers. Think of these retinal cells as tiny solar panels. When sunlight hits them, they generate a signal, a kind of electrical message that travels along a dedicated highway straight to the part of your brain that makes serotonin. The more light, the stronger the signal, and the more serotonin gets produced. Let me give you an analogy that I think captures this beautifully. Imagine your brain's serotonin system is like a beautiful fountain in the center of a garden. The fountain is always there, but it needs a pump to keep the water flowing. Sunlight is that pump. When sunlight hits your eyes in the morning, it essentially switches on the pump and serotonin begins to flow more freely throughout your brain. The garden comes alive, the flowers open, everything feels a little more vibrant, a little more alive, and your brain blossoms. And the research backs this up beautifully. A landmark study published in The Lancet, which is one of the world's most prestigious medical journals, found that the rate of serotonin production in the brain was directly related to the amount of sunlight a person had been exposed to on that same day. Not the day before, not the week before. It had to be that very day. The brain's serotonin system is remarkably responsive to light, adjusting almost in real time to the amount of sunlight you receive. On a bright sunny day, your brain is literally producing more of the chemical that helps you feel good, focused, and calm. And on a dark, overcast day, or during the short days of winter, that production can drop significantly. This is not a character flaw. It's not a matter of willpower or attitude. No, it's chemistry. Now, I want to pause here and talk about something that many of us have experienced or know someone who has experienced. It's called seasonal affective disorder. And you're sad. This is a form of depression that follows a seasonal pattern, typically beginning in the late fall and continuing through the winter months. For years, people who experienced SAD, seasonal affective disorder, were sometimes told to just cheer up or push through it. But we now understand that SAD is, at least in part, a biological response to reduced sunlight exposure and the resulting drop in serotonin. This is why light therapy, sitting in front of a special bright light box for 20 to 30 minutes each morning, is one of the most effective treatments for SAD. But here's the thing I really want you to take away from this section. You don't have to have SAD to benefit from more sunlight. All of us, every single day, can experience the mood-lifting, focus-enhancing, calm-inducing effects of serotonin when we make a conscious effort to get outside and let natural light into our eyes. I think about this a lot in the context of education. Over my more than 30 years' experience of teaching, I've seen firsthand how the environment affects learning. Children who spend time outdoors, who have access to natural light in their classrooms, who are not cooped up inside all day, those children tend to be more engaged, more focused, and more emotionally regulated. And now we understand why. They're giving their brains the serotonin boost they need to learn effectively. Unfortunately, many classrooms in U.S. schools, particularly those built during the 1960s to the 1980s, lack windows. This design choice was often driven by the need for better energy efficiency, saving money. However, it has a negative effect on a child's energy and ability to learn, which has to do with saving futures. And it doesn't just apply to children. Whether you're a college student studying for exams, a professional trying to stay sharp in a demanding job, or a retiree who wants to keep their mind active and engaged, serotonin matters. And sunlight is one of the most powerful, natural, and accessible ways to support it. Let me offer you one more analogy before we move on, because I think it captures something important. You know how a plant grows toward the light? We all know this. We learned it in grade school. It's called a phototropism. The plant doesn't have a brain, but it has evolved to know at a cellular level that light is essential for its survival and growth. In a very real sense, we are not so different. And now let's talk about something that I find absolutely fascinating and that I think most people don't fully appreciate. And that's the circadian rhythm. The word circadian comes from the Latin circadius, meaning about a day. Your circadian rhythm is your body's internal 24-hour clock, and it governs an astonishing range of biological processes. When you feel sleepy and when you feel alert, when your body temperature rises or falls, when your digestive system is most active, when your immune system is at its strongest, and more, much, much more. The master timekeeper for all of this is a tiny cluster of about 20,000 neurons located in the hypothalamus of your brain, deep in the center of your brain. This cluster is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. I like to think of it as the conductor of your body's orchestra. It keeps every section, the strings, the brass, the percussion, playing in perfect time. When the conductor is in sync, the music is beautiful. When the conductor is off, the whole orchestra falls apart. And what is the most powerful signal that keeps SCN, the conductor, in sync? You guessed it. Sunlight. Here's how it works. In the morning, when sunlight enters your eyes, those special light-sensitive cells in your retinas send a signal directly to the SCN. The SCN receives the signal and essentially says, okay, it's morning. The sun is up. Let's get this body going. It then triggers a cascade of biological events. One of the first things that happens is a healthy spike in cortisol. Now, cortisol often gets a bad reputation because we associate it with stress. And it's true that chronically elevated cortisol is harmful. But a morning cortisol spike is actually a good thing. It's your body's natural way of waking you up, sharpening your focus, and preparing you to engage with the world. Think of it as your body's internal alarm clock, but one that doesn't jolt you awake with a jarring buzz. It's more like a gentle, gradual brightening of the lights, a warm sunrise inside your own biology. But here's where the real magic happens. And this is the part that I find most remarkable. That morning sunlight doesn't just wake you up. It also sets a timer for sleep. When your SCN receives the morning light signal, it begins counting down the hours until it's time to release melatonin, the hormone that makes you feel sleepy. Typically, melatonin starts to rise about 14 to 16 hours after your morning light exposure. So if you get outside and see bright sunlight at 7 in the morning, your brain will begin preparing you for sleep around 9 or 10 that evening. And here's something that I think is really important to understand. Serotonin and melatonin are actually connected. Your body uses serotonin as a building block to produce melatonin. So when you boost your serotonin levels during the day with sunlight exposure, you're not just improving your mood in the moment, you're also laying the groundwork for better sleep that night. It's a remarkable, elegant system. Sunlight in the morning gives you the serotonin you need to feel good during the day, and then your body converts that serotonin to melatonin in the evening to help you sleep deeply at night. The sun, in a very real sense, is the architect of your entire daily rhythm. Now, let's talk about what happens when this system gets disrupted. Think about how many of us live our lives today. We wake up before sunrise, are in a darkened bedroom. We go straight from our beds to our bathrooms, then our kitchens, and then to our cars or offices, all under artificial lighting. We might not see actual natural sunlight until lunchtime, if we're lucky. And then in the evening, we spend hours staring at the bright screens of our phones, our tablets, television, which emit a type of light that our brain interprets as daytime, suppressing melatonin and pushing our sleepiness later and later into the night. The result? Millions of people are walking around in a state of chronic circadian disruption. They can't fall asleep at a reasonable hour. They can't wake up feeling refreshed. They feel foggy and sluggish during the day. They reach for caffeine to compensate. And over time, this chronic sleep disruption takes a real toll on brain health, cognitive function, emotional regulation, and even physical health. But here's the good news, and I cannot emphasize this enough. This is fixable, and the fix is remarkably simple. Get outside in the morning. That's it. Just 10 to 15 minutes of natural light exposure within the first hour or two of waking up is enough to send a powerful signal to your SCN and begin the process of resetting your circadian rhythm. You don't need to stare at the sun. Oh, please don't. You don't need to be in direct sunlight. Even on a cloudy day, the light intensity outside is many times greater than indoor lighting, and it's enough to trigger the response you need. On overcast days, aim for 20 to 30 minutes to get the full effect. I want to share something that I've noticed in my own life and in the lives of my students over the years. When people start prioritizing morning sunlight, even just a short walk outside after breakfast, they often report that they sleep better within just a few days, not weeks, days. The brain is remarkably responsive to this signal. It's like giving a wilted plant a drink of water. Better sleep means better emotional regulation, better immune function, better metabolic health, and better cognitive performance across the board. And if you haven't seen it, you might want to watch my podcast on sleep. And I had another one on dreaming. But the one on sleep relates to this one, and you might enjoy that. So anyway, in a very real sense, the sunlight you get in the morning is an investment in the quality of your brain for the entire next 24 hours. So, as an educator, I think about this in terms of learning. When we support our circadian rhythm with morning sunlight, we are setting the stage for deeper, more effective learning. It's one of the most powerful and most overlooked learning strategies available to us. Now, let's turn to a topic that's been generating a great deal of excitement in the scientific community in recent years. That's the role of vitamin D in brain health. We know that vitamin D helps our bodies absorb calcium, and that without it, our bones can become weak and brittle. That's all true. But what many people don't realize is that vitamin D is also a critical player in brain function, and that its role in protecting our cognitive health as we age may be just as important as its role in keeping our bones strong. Let me start with a little bit of background. Vitamin D is unique among vitamins in that our bodies can actually produce it themselves, but only with the help of sunlight. When ultraviolet rays from the sun hit your skin, they trigger a chemical reaction that converts a precursor molecule in your skin into vitamin D. It's a remarkable process. Your skin is essentially a solar-powered vitamin D factory. But here's the thing. A very large proportion of the global population is vitamin D deficient. Some estimates suggest that over 1 billion people worldwide have insufficient vitamin D levels. This is partly because we spend so much time indoors, partly because we use sunscreen, which, while important for preventing skin cancer, also reduces vitamin D synthesis, and partly because many of us live in latitudes where the sun is not strong enough for adequate vitamin D production for much of the year. So, why does this matter for the brain? More specifically, vitamin D has been shown to have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties in the brain. Inflammation and oxidative stress are two of the key processes that drive neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. By helping to keep these processes in check, vitamin D acts as a kind of protective shield for your brain. It's like a coat of rust-proof paint on the infrastructure of your mind. And the research is compelling. A study published in the journal Neurology found that people who were severely vitamin D deficient were more than twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease and dementia compared to those with adequate vitamin D levels. That's a striking finding. It suggests that something as simple as maintaining healthy vitamin D levels could have a profound impact on our risk of developing one of the most feared diseases of aging. But perhaps the most exciting recent research comes from Tufts University, where scientists conducted what was actually the very first study to examine vitamin D levels directly in human brain tissue. Think about that for a moment. For all the research that's been done on vitamin D, no one had ever actually looked at how much of it is present in the brain itself until now. The Tufts researchers examined brain tissue samples from 290 older adults and found that those with higher levels of vitamin D in their brains had significantly better cognitive function. They looked at 4 different regions of the brain, including regions affected with Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia. And in every single region, higher vitamin D levels correlated with better cognitive performance. Now, I want to be careful here because good science requires us to be precise. This study showed a correlation, a relationship between vitamin D levels and cognitive function. It does not definitively prove that vitamin D causes better cognitive function. The researchers themselves were clear about this, noting that more work needs to be done to understand exactly how vitamin D protects the brain. But the correlation is strong. It's consistent, and it fits with everything else we know about vitamin D's role in brain health. The lead researcher, Kyla Shea, put it this way: "We now know that vitamin D is present in reasonable amounts in human brains, and it seems to be correlated with less decline in cognitive function." So now I want to address a question that I know many of you are probably thinking. Can't I just take a vitamin D supplement? Do I really need to go outside? Well, that's a great question, and the honest answer is it's complicated. Vitamin D supplements can certainly help, especially for people who live in northern climates, who have darker skin, which requires more sun exposure to process the same amount of vitamin D, or who have medical conditions that affect vitamin D absorption. And if your doctor has recommended a vitamin D supplement, please follow their advice. But there are a few reasons why sunlight may be preferable to supplements for vitamin D production when it's safe and practical and is not going against your doctor's advice. First, when your body produces vitamin D through sun exposure, it has a built-in regulatory mechanism. It stops producing vitamin D once you've made enough, so it prevents toxicity. With supplements, it's easier to accidentally take too much. Second, sun exposure provides other benefits beyond vitamin D, including the serotonin boost and circadian rhythm regulation we've already discussed. And third, there's something to be said for the holistic benefits of simply being outside. The fresh air, the physical activity, the connection with nature that a supplement simply can't replicate. Oh, and it's free. The key, as with so many things in life, is balance. Moderate, sensible sun exposure, avoiding the peak UV hours of the day, using sunscreen on prolonged exposures, and being mindful of your skin type can give you the vitamin D your brain needs without putting your skin at risk. Let's recap what we've learned. First, sunlight triggers the production of serotonin in your brain, boosting your mood, your focus, and your sense of calm. Second, morning sunlight regulates your circadian rhythm, improving the quality of your sleep and setting you up for a more alert, productive day. And third, sunlight enables your body to produce vitamin D, which supports cognitive function and helps protect your brain against neurodegenerative diseases. 3 powerful benefits, 1 simple source, the sun. So finally, my challenge for the week is I want you to make a commitment to 1 week of morning sunlight, just 1 week, every morning. Within the first hours of waking up, get outside for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Oh, and consider stopping screen time at least 30 to 60 minutes before bed to improve quality sleep. By the end of the week, ask yourself, am I doing better? Is my mood better? Do I feel a little brighter? So, the science is clear. Sunlight is important. Let the sun shine in. Your brain will thank you. Oh, and don't forget to share your stories and thoughts with us on our social media channels. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe. It's free. Now, until next week, thank you for joining me on this episode of Blossoming Brains. And don't forget to keep learning, keep growing, and keep blossoming.